Welcome to this gentle journey.
Welcome to this gentle journey through the art of learning. As you settle in, let yourself relax completely. There's nothing you need to do right now except listen and drift. Our first insight is one of the most comforting discoveries in neuroscience. The brain remains capable of learning and changing throughout life. This is called neuroplasticity, and it means that no matter your age, no matter where you are in life, your brain is still growing, still adapting, still capable of remarkable transformation. Like a garden that can bloom in any season, your mind is always ready, always open, always becoming. Take a deep breath and let that sink in. You are never too old, never too set in your ways to learn something new. Now, here's something beautiful about how we learn best. Positive emotions like curiosity and confidence help the brain learn faster than stress. When you approach something new with wonder, with gentle interest, with that childlike sense of, I wonder what this is like, your brain opens up. Neural pathways light up like constellations. But when stress enters, when pressure builds, those pathways narrow. The brain becomes defensive, protective, closed. So as you lie here now, notice how good it feels to simply be curious, without pressure, without urgency, just curious. This brings us to our third understanding. A relaxed, safe environment accelerates learning more than fear or pressure. Think about that for a moment. The times you learned most easily, most joyfully, were probably times when you felt safe. Maybe as a child, exploring something new with someone patient nearby. Maybe as an adult, trying something just for fun with no stakes, no judgment. Your brain learns best when it feels safe. And right now, in this moment, you are safe. You can let go and simply rest. Let's consider something about motivation now. Intrinsic motivation increases effort and long-term engagement. This means when you learn something because you truly want to, because it speaks to something inside you, you'll naturally put in more effort. You won't need to force yourself. It will feel less like work and more like play, less like obligation and more like exploration. Think about the things you've learned simply because you wanted to. How much easier that felt. How naturally the knowledge came. And here's why that internal desire matters so much. Learning works best when the brain knows why the skill matters. Your mind isn't just a machine that absorbs random information. It's a meaning-making organism. It wants to understand. Why does this matter? How does this connect to my life? What purpose does this serve? When you can answer those questions, even quietly, even just for yourself, learning becomes effortless. The brain says, "Ah, I understand. This is important. This is worth remembering." This is why clear intentions give the brain direction and meaning. Before you begin learning anything, even in the smallest way, pause. Ask yourself, why do I want this? What will this bring to my life? You don't need a grand reason, just a true one. That clarity, that honest intention becomes like a compass. It guides your brain, shows it where to focus, what to prioritize, what to keep. Imagine your intention as a gentle light, illuminating a path through a forest, showing you, step by step, where to go. Now, let's talk about something crucial, something that might change how you think about rest entirely. Sleep is essential because memory consolidation happens offline. This means all day long, as you learn and experience and practice, your brain is gathering information. But it's during sleep, during those quiet hours of rest, that your brain processes everything. It sorts, it organizes, it strengthens the connections that matter. Learning doesn't just happen when you're actively studying or practicing. It happens in the silence. It happens in the dark. It happens when you surrender to sleep. So rest is not laziness, it's part of learning. Every time you close your eyes, every time you let yourself truly rest, you're not stopping the process. You're completing it. You're giving your brain the space it needs to integrate, to grow, to become. Rest is sacred, rest is productive, rest is learning. And here's something wonderful to carry with you into sleep. Learning is happening even when you're not consciously trying. Right now, as you listen to these words, as your mind begins to drift, as your body softens into rest, learning is occurring. Your brain is working quietly beneath the surface. You don't have to force it. You don't have to try. You simply allow. And finally, remember this. Growth happens quietly before it becomes visible, just like a seed beneath the soil, just like roots spreading in darkness. Your learning is taking root, even when you can't see it yet. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, transformation is underway. Trust the process. Trust the quiet. Trust the darkness, where all growth begins. And now, let yourself drift, knowing that even as you sleep, you are learning, you are growing, you are becoming. Rest now. Everything is exactly as it should be. And so we continue, drifting deeper into understanding. Let yourself sink a little further into comfort. There's no rush, no urgency, just these quiet truths washing over you like gentle waves. Here's something powerful about how we truly learn. Learning is faster when you actively create knowledge instead of consuming. Think about the difference between reading words on a page and writing your own thoughts down, between watching someone demonstrate a skill and trying it yourself, even clumsily, even imperfectly. When you create, when you produce, when you take what you've absorbed and reshape it into something of your own, that's when learning deepens. That's when it becomes truly yours. Your brain doesn't just store information, it transforms it, weaves it into the fabric of who you are. So remember, you are not a vessel waiting to be filled. You are a creator, an active participant in your own becoming. Now, let's talk about the world around you and how it shapes your ability to learn. Removing digital distractions dramatically increases learning efficiency. You already know this, in that quiet part of yourself, that every notification, every ping, every flashing screen pulls your attention into fragments. Your brain wants to focus, it wants to dive deep, but it cannot, when it's constantly being called elsewhere. Imagine trying to fill a cup while someone keeps tilting it to the side. The water spills, never settles, never fills. When you remove those distractions, even temporarily, you give your brain permission to settle, to fill, to absorb fully, and the learning that happens in that undisturbed space is worth 10 times the scattered attention of a distracted hour. Let yourself imagine a space of complete quiet, complete focus. How peaceful that feels. And speaking of space, here's something beautifully simple. A consistent learning space trains your brain to focus faster. Your mind loves patterns. It loves associations. When you practice or study or learn in the same place, over and over, your brain begins to recognize, this is the place where I focus. This is where I become absorbed. It's like a trigger, a gentle signal that prepares your mind, even before you begin. You sit down, and your brain is already shifting gears, already preparing to engage, to concentrate, to learn. You don't need a perfect space, just a consistent one, a corner, a chair, a desk, anywhere that becomes your place. Now, about time and how you use it. Short, intense sessions outperform long, distracted ones. This might surprise you, but an hour of half-focused effort, scattered attention, mind wandering, teaches you less than 15 minutes of complete presence. Quality always outweighs quantity. Your brain learns through intensity of focus, not duration of sitting. Better to practice deeply for 20 minutes than to sit with a book for 3 hours, while your mind drifts to 1,000 other places. So give yourself permission to work in bursts. Bright, concentrated moments, followed by rest. That rhythm is natural. That rhythm is how we're designed to learn. And within those bursts, timed focus blocks improve attention and retention. There's something almost magical about setting a timer, about telling yourself, for the next 15 minutes, I will be completely here, just 15 minutes. The timer becomes a container. It holds your focus, it creates boundaries, and knowing there's an end, knowing rest is coming, actually helps you stay present. You're not committing to forever, just to now, just to this small pocket of time. And your brain can do that. Your brain can focus for a little while, and then you rest, and then you focus again. On and off, like breathing, like the tide. Here's a strategy that harnesses your natural energy rhythms. Starting sessions with the hardest task uses peak mental energy. When you first sit down to learn, your mind is fresh, your willpower is full, your cognitive resources are at their highest. This is the time to tackle what challenges you most, not later, when you're tired, when resistance has built up, when everything feels heavier. No. Meet the challenge when you're strongest. Face it, while you still have that clarity, that sharpness. And then, as your energy naturally softens, you can move to easier things. Simpler reviews, gentle practice. Let your learning session follow the natural arc of your energy. Now, here's something that removes so much unnecessary struggle. Planning practice in advance saves willpower. Every decision you make, every what should I work on, every where should I start, uses energy. Small choices that drain you bit by bit before you've even begun. But when you plan ahead, when you decide in advance what you'll practice and when, you remove those decisions. You wake up or sit down and you already know. There's no debate, no negotiation with yourself. You simply begin. Planning is a gift you give to your future self, a path already cleared, so you can walk it without hesitation. And here's another way to remove friction entirely. Keeping tools visible removes friction and delays. If you have to search for what you need, if you have to dig through drawers or hunt for materials every time you want to practice, that barrier, however small, grows larger in your mind. But when everything is ready, when your tools are visible, within reach, waiting for you, starting becomes effortless. You simply extend your hand and begin. Make it easy on yourself. Make starting the path of least resistance. Let's talk about rituals now. Those small ceremonies that signal change. A fixed opening routine signals it's practice time. Maybe you light a candle, or play a certain song, or take 3 deep breaths. Maybe you pour tea, or arrange your space, or close your eyes for a moment. Whatever it is, when you repeat it, again and again, it becomes a bridge, a transition. Your mind learns. Ah, this ritual means it's time to focus now, time to learn, time to practice. The routine doesn't have to be elaborate, it just has to be consistent. A simple gesture that says, I'm ready to begin. And finally, here's how to make each session flow into the next. Ending sessions with a clear next step speeds the next start. Before you finish, before you close the book or put down the instrument or save the file, decide, what will I do when I return? Write it down, make it specific. Not practice more, but practice this specific exercise or review this particular concept. Give yourself a clear entry point, a door already open, waiting for you to walk through. That way, when you return, there's no wondering, no uncertainty. You simply pick up where you left off. The momentum carries you forward. Learning becomes a continuous river rather than a series of separate pools. It flows from one session to the next, to the next. And now, as you rest, let these ideas settle, like snow falling softly, covering the landscape of your mind. You don't need to hold on to them. They're already within you. Let yourself drift deeper now, knowing that creating the right environment isn't about perfection. It's about removing barriers, making space for learning to unfold naturally, effortlessly. Everything is in place. You can simply rest. Welcome back to this gentle space of learning. As you settle in even more deeply, let your body sink into complete comfort. There's nothing to do but listen and drift, and let these truths about learning wash over you like a calm tide. We begin with something fundamental about how our minds work. Clear, specific goals speed improvement more than vague goals. Your brain loves precision. It thrives on clarity. When you tell yourself, I want to get better, your mind doesn't know where to go. It's like setting out on a journey with no destination. You might move, but you're wandering, not traveling. But when you say, I want to be able to do this specific thing, suddenly your brain has a target. It knows what to aim for. It can measure progress. It can adjust course. Clarity doesn't create pressure. It creates direction, and direction makes everything easier. Think of it like this. Imagine walking through fog versus walking toward a lighthouse in the distance. Both journeys might take the same time, but one feels uncertain, while the other feels purposeful. Your brain prefers the lighthouse. It wants to know, where are we going? This is why defining performance targets shows the brain what success looks like. Success isn't abstract when you define it clearly. It becomes something tangible, something observable. You'll know when you've arrived, because you'll recognize the destination. Maybe success is playing a song all the way through without stopping. Maybe it's having a conversation in another language. Maybe it's solving a particular type of problem. Whatever it is, define it. Paint the picture. Show your brain. This is what we're working toward. This is what it looks like when we get there. And your brain will say, I understand. I know what to do. Now, here's how to make complex skills feel manageable. Breaking skills into micro skills accelerates correction. Every skill you admire, every ability that seems so fluid in others, is actually a constellation of smaller abilities, tiny components, working together, creating something that looks seamless. When you break things down, when you identify each small piece, you can practice them individually, you can improve each one. And here's the beautiful part. When you correct a micro skill, when you refine just one small element, the entire larger skill improves. It's like untangling a necklace. You don't pull at the whole thing. You find one knot, work on just that knot, and suddenly, everything else loosens too. This connects to another essential principle. Starting with foundations makes advanced learning smoother. There's a reason buildings begin with solid ground, a reason trees grow from deep roots. Without that base, without those fundamentals, everything built on top is unstable. But when you take time with the basics, when you truly master the foundational elements, everything that comes after feels easier. Not because you're more talented, but because you've built the infrastructure. You've created the scaffolding that supports everything else. Foundation work isn't exciting. It doesn't feel impressive. But it's the most valuable work you can do. It's the investment that pays dividends for every hour of learning that follows. Now, here's something about efficiency. Prioritizing high-impact skills compresses learning time. Not all skills are created equal. Some give you enormous returns. Some unlock whole categories of ability. Some are leverage points that make everything else accessible. The wise learner asks, which skills matter most? Which ones will serve me in 100 situations? Which ones are the keys that open many doors? When you identify those high-impact skills and focus there first, you accelerate everything. You're not being lazy, you're being strategic. You're choosing to build the skills that multiply your abilities. Let's talk about understanding complexity now. Using simple mental models reduces complexity. Your brain can only hold so much at once. When you're trying to learn something complicated, you need ways to simplify, to create patterns, to build mental shortcuts that help you grasp the whole. A mental model is like a map. The territory might be vast and intricate, but the map shows you the essential features, the main roads, the landmarks. You don't need every detail. You need the pattern, the structure, the framework that helps everything else make sense. When you find a good mental model, when you discover a way to think about something that makes it clearer, simpler, more intuitive, hold on to it. That model becomes a tool you'll use again and again. Here's a practical technique that transforms feedback into progress. Checklists turn feedback into self-correction. When you're learning, you're constantly receiving information about what's working and what isn't. But that feedback is useless if you don't know what to do with it. A checklist gives you a system, a process. When something goes wrong, you don't just feel bad about it. You consult your checklist. You identify what happened. You know what to adjust. You make the correction. Checklists remove emotion from the equation. They make improvement a simple matter of following steps. Did I do this? Did I remember that? What needs to change? It's calm, it's clear, it's effective. And here's something crucial about focus. One focus per session beats juggling many priorities. Your attention is like a spotlight. When you try to illuminate many things at once, you spread the light so thin that nothing is truly visible. But when you point that spotlight at one thing, everything becomes crystal clear. Each practice session, each learning period, should have one primary focus, not 10 goals, not 5 intentions. One, just one thing you're working on, one element you're refining, one skill you're developing, and that singular focus allows depth, allows mastery, allows real change to occur. Here's how to maintain energy and enthusiasm over time. Tiny milestones keep momentum alive. Big goals are inspiring, but they're far away. If you only celebrate when you reach the distant destination, you'll lose heart along the journey. But tiny milestones, small markers of progress, give you reasons to feel good every day, every session. You're not just working toward some far-off achievement. You're succeeding, right now, today, this moment. Maybe the milestone is practicing for 10 minutes. Maybe it's trying something new. Maybe it's noticing one small improvement. Celebrate those tiny victories. Let them fuel you. Let them remind you you're moving forward. And when you string together enough tiny milestones, you look back one day and realize how far you've come. Finally, here's the gift that clarity brings. Learning feels easier when the path is clear. So much of struggle comes from confusion, from not knowing what to do next, from uncertainty about whether you're doing the right thing. That mental static, that questioning and second guessing, it exhausts you. But when the path is clear, when you know what you're working on and why, when you can see the steps laid out before you, learning becomes almost peaceful. You're not fighting yourself. You're not consumed with doubt. You're simply following the path. One step, then another, then another. Clarity doesn't guarantee speed, but it guarantees peace. And from that peace, from that settled confidence, real learning flows. So as you rest now, let yourself appreciate clarity, the value of knowing where you're going, the comfort of having a map, the ease of following a clear path. You don't need to figure everything out at once. You just need to know the next step, and then the next, and slowly, steadily, surely, you'll arrive. Rest in that knowing. Rest in that clarity. Let yourself drift deeper, with the quiet confidence that the path is there, waiting for you, clear and ready, whenever you choose to walk it. Everything is unfolding, exactly as it should. And so we continue on this journey, deeper into rest, deeper into understanding. Let your breathing slow, let your muscles soften. There's nowhere to be but here, nothing to do but listen, and learn, and drift. Let's begin with a truth that changes everything about how we approach practice. Deliberate practice outperforms repetition. There's a difference, a profound difference, between doing something over and over and practicing with intention. You can repeat an action 1,000 times, and if you're not paying attention, if you're not engaged, if you're just going through the motions, you might improve very little. But deliberate practice is different. It's conscious, it's focused, it's practice with a purpose. You're not just repeating, you're refining, you're noticing, you're adjusting. Every repetition has meaning. Every attempt teaches you something. It's not about how many hours you spend. It's about how present you are in each of those hours. Quality of attention always trumps quantity of time. Now here's where growth truly happens. Practicing just outside your comfort zone drives growth. Your comfort zone is a beautiful place. It's where you feel competent, confident, capable. But nothing new grows there. It's familiar ground, and familiar ground doesn't challenge you. Growth happens at the edge, not so far beyond your ability that you're overwhelmed, but just past what's easy, just beyond what's comfortable. That's the sweet spot. That's where your brain wakes up and says, "Oh, this is new. I need to adapt. I need to grow." Think of it like warming yourself by a fire. Too far away and you feel no heat. Too close and you burn. But at just the right distance, you feel the warmth, the gentle heat that soothes and energizes and brings you to life. Here's something important about making learning stick. Real-world scenarios improve transfer. You can practice something in isolation, in perfect conditions, and become quite good at it. But then, when you try to use that skill in real life, in messy situations, with unpredictable elements, suddenly it doesn't work the same way. This is why practicing in context matters. This is why simulating real conditions, even imperfectly, helps so much. Your brain learns not just the skill, but when to use it, how to adapt it, how to apply it when things aren't perfect. The more your practice resembles reality, the more easily your learning transfers into the situations where you actually need it. Now let's talk about feedback, that essential ingredient of improvement. High-quality feedback prevents reinforcing mistakes. Here's the danger of practice without feedback. You can practice something wrong, over and over, and actually get very good at doing it wrong. Your brain is learning, yes, but it's learning the incorrect pattern. And once that pattern is deeply grooved, it's much harder to fix. This is why feedback matters so much. Good feedback shows you what's working and what isn't. It catches errors early. It guides your corrections. It ensures that what you're practicing is actually moving you toward mastery, not just toward very confident, very consistent mistakes. Here's a powerful tool for self-feedback. Recording yourself reveals blind spots. When you're in the middle of doing something, your attention is divided. You're focused on executing, on performing, on getting through it. You can't see yourself clearly. You can't catch everything. But when you record yourself and watch it back later, suddenly you see things you never noticed. Small errors, unconscious habits, moments where you drifted from what you intended. It's like looking in a mirror for your performance. And those blind spots, once revealed, can be addressed. What you can see, you can change. This brings us to another form of feedback. Comparing to a clear reference sharpens accuracy. When you have a model, a standard, a clear example of what good looks like, You can measure yourself against it, not to feel inadequate, but to see clearly. What's different? Where's the gap? What can I adjust? A reference point gives you something concrete to aim for. It's not subjective. It's not vague. You can see, hear, observe what you're working toward, and that clarity makes improvement so much more straightforward. Here's how to make feedback even more useful. Asking for narrow feedback improves faster. When you ask someone, "How did I do?" the question is too broad. They might say, "Pretty good," or "Needs work." And you haven't learned anything specific. You don't know what to change. But when you ask, "Was my timing consistent in the second section?" Or, "Did I explain that concept clearly?" Or, "How was my posture during that movement?" Now you get useful information. Specific information. Information you can act on. Narrow your questions. Focus your feedback. Target one element at a time. That's how you improve systematically, precisely, effectively. Now here's a technique for rapid correction. Repeating mistakes immediately fixes them faster. The moment you make an error, that's the moment to address it, not later. Not after you've moved on. Right then. Stop. Do it again. Do it correctly. Your brain is still processing what just happened. The neural pathways are still active. The memory is fresh. If you correct it immediately, you overwrite the mistake before it has a chance to settle in. You replace the wrong pattern with the right one while the moment is alive. Immediate correction is powerful. It keeps mistakes from taking root. Here's a practice technique that builds precision. Slow motion practice cleans technique. When you practice at full speed, you might be making small errors, but moving too fast to notice them. Speed can hide imperfection. Speed can let you get away with almost right. But when you slow down, when you practice something at half speed or quarter speed, everything becomes visible. Every movement, every detail, every micro adjustment. And in that slow practice, you can be perfect. You can get it exactly right. And when you've done it right slowly, enough times, the correct pattern becomes automatic. Then, when you speed up, the precision comes with you. You're not just fast, you're fast and accurate, because you built accuracy first, in the slow practice, where precision lives. Finally, here's how to develop both precision and speed. Alternating accuracy and speed rounds pushes limits safely. You don't have to choose between doing something right and doing it quickly. You develop both, but not at the same time. Practice one round focused purely on accuracy. Take your time, get it perfect, let your brain learn what right feels like. Then, practice another round focused on speed. Push yourself. Go faster than comfortable. See what you're capable of. Don't worry if it's messy. Then back to accuracy. Then back to speed. Accuracy. Speed. Accuracy. Speed. Each approach trains something different. Accuracy trains precision. Speed trains fluidity. And by alternating, you develop both without compromising either. You're not practicing fast sloppiness. You're not practicing slow rigidity. You're building a skill that's both clean and quick. That's the goal. That's mastery. When something is both right and effortless. And now, as you rest, let these principles of practice settle into your understanding. You don't need to memorize them. They're already becoming part of you. Your brain is processing, integrating, making connections, even as you drift toward sleep. Practice is not punishment. It's not tedious repetition. It's the art of conscious refinement. It's how you shape yourself, bit by bit, into who you want to become. And that shaping, that patient, deliberate, mindful work, that's where the real magic lives. Rest now, knowing that every moment of good practice is transforming you in ways you can't yet see, but will one day clearly recognize. Everything is unfolding perfectly. Welcome back to this peaceful space of learning. Let yourself sink even deeper now, into comfort, into stillness. Your body is heavy and relaxed. Your mind is open and receptive, and you're ready to absorb these truths about how memory truly works. Let's begin with something that might change how you approach learning forever. Spaced repetition beats cramming. Your brain doesn't work like a hard drive, where you can dump all the information in at once and it stays there. Memory is organic. It's living. It needs time, space, breath. When you cram everything into one long session, trying to force it all in, most of it slips away within days. But when you spread that same material across multiple sessions, with space between them, something remarkable happens. Each time you return to the information, your memory strengthens, the connections deepen, the knowledge becomes more permanent. It's like watering a garden. You don't pour all the water for the month onto the plants in one day. You water a little, then let them absorb it, then water again. Spacing is natural. Spacing is how growth happens. And here's the optimal timing. Reviewing just before forgetting strengthens memory. There's a sweet spot, a perfect moment, right when something is starting to fade from your mind, not completely gone, but getting fuzzy. That moment, when you have to work a little to remember, that's when review has the most power. Because when you successfully retrieve something that was almost forgotten, your brain says, "Oh, this must be important. I almost lost it. I need to hold on to this more tightly." And the memory strengthens. It becomes more durable, more resistant to forgetting. You don't need to review things you remember easily. That's comfortable, but it doesn't build strength. Review when it's hard. Review when you're reaching for it. That struggle, that effort, that's what creates lasting memory. Now here's a technique that transforms how you study. Active recall is more powerful than rereading. Reading something again feels productive. It feels like learning. But often, you're just recognizing familiar words. Your eyes pass over them, and you think, "Yes, I know this." But you're not actually testing whether you can retrieve it. Active recall is different. You close the book, you look away, and you try to remember. You try to produce the information from memory. No hints, no prompts. Just, what can you recall? That active retrieval, that effortful remembering, that's what builds strong memory, not recognition, retrieval. The harder you have to work to pull something from your mind, the stronger that pathway becomes. Here's a practice strategy that makes your learning more flexible. Interleaving skills improves transfer. When you practice one thing over and over in a blocked session, you get good at that one thing. But your learning stays narrow, specialized, hard to apply elsewhere. But when you mix things up, when you practice skill A, then skill B, then skill C, then back to A, your brain has to work harder. It has to identify what's needed. It has to shift. It has to adapt. And that process, that constant adjustment, makes your learning more robust, more transferable, more useful in varied situations. Interleaving feels harder than blocked practice. It feels less smooth. But that difficulty is the point. That's where the learning lives. Let's talk about a simple but powerful tool. Mini tests reactivate learning. You don't need formal exams. You don't need elaborate assessments. Just small moments where you quiz yourself, where you check what you remember, where you test what you've learned. Maybe it's a few flashcards. Maybe it's explaining something out loud. Maybe it's answering a quick question. These mini tests wake up your memory. They pull information forward. They show you what's sticking and what needs more attention. And here's the key. These tests aren't about judgment. They're not about passing or failing. They're tools. They're feedback mechanisms. They're ways to strengthen what you know and identify what you need to revisit. Now here's how to deepen your understanding. Summarizing in your own words deepens understanding. When you can only repeat what you've read or heard, exactly as it was presented, you haven't really understood it. You've memorized it. But understanding is different. Understanding means you can take the information and express it in your own way, your own words, your own structure, because you've processed it, you've made sense of it, you've integrated it into your existing knowledge. So after you learn something, pause and try to explain it as if you're talking to a friend. Don't use the same phrases from the book or lecture. Use your language, your examples, your way of seeing it. If you can do that, you truly understand. This brings us to one of the most powerful learning techniques of all: teaching locks in knowledge. There's an old saying, you don't really know something until you can teach it, and it's profoundly true. When you teach, when you explain something to someone else, you have to organize your thoughts. You have to anticipate questions. You have to find clear ways to express complex ideas. You have to think deeply about what you know and how to communicate it. That process, that effort to teach, solidifies your own understanding in ways that nothing else can. You learn by teaching. You master by explaining. Even if you're just teaching an imaginary student or explaining to yourself in the mirror, the act of teaching transforms your knowledge. Here's a rhythm that maximizes retention. Rotate study, practice, and explanation. Don't just study. Don't just practice. Don't just explain. Do all three in rotation. Study to take in new information. Practice to apply it. Explain to deepen understanding. Then back to study. Then practice. Then explanation. Around and around. Each mode reinforces the others. Each mode accesses your knowledge in a different way. And that variety, that multifaceted engagement, creates learning that's strong from every angle. Now here's a creative approach to retention. Translate learning into diagrams or stories. Your brain loves visual information. It loves narrative. When you can take abstract concepts and turn them into images, into diagrams, into maps, they become more memorable, more accessible, more real. And when you can weave information into a story, with characters and events and cause and effect, it sticks. Stories are how humans have preserved knowledge for millennia. Our brains are wired for story. Use that. Don't just memorize facts, draw them, map them, story them, make them visual and narrative and alive. And finally, here's the core principle underlying all of this. Memory strengthens through effortful retrieval. Notice that word, effortful. Not easy, not comfortable, not smooth. Effortful. When remembering is easy, when information comes to you instantly, you're not building memory strength, you're just confirming what's already strong. But when you have to work for it, when you have to dig, when you have to search your mind and reach and struggle just a little, that's when the memory pathway gets reinforced. The effort is the exercise. The difficulty is the weight that builds strength. Don't shy away from the effort. Embrace it. That struggle to remember is your brain growing stronger. So as you rest now, as you drift deeper into sleep, know that your memory is not a fixed thing. It's not something you have or don't have. It's something you build, something you strengthen, something you can develop through the right practices, through patience, through trust in the process. Everything you learn, when you learn it well, becomes part of you, not floating on the surface, but woven into the fabric of who you are, accessible when you need it, there when you reach for it, solid and lasting and true. Let that comfort you. Let that settle you into rest. Your memory is stronger than you think, and with each day, each practice, each effort, it grows stronger still. Rest now and let the learning integrate, deepen, become yours. Everything is exactly as it should be, and we continue drifting deeper into understanding. Let your body rest completely now. Let every muscle soften, every tension release. There's nothing to hold on to, nothing to protect, just this gentle flow of wisdom washing over you like a quiet stream. Let's begin with a truth that can transform your entire relationship with learning. Mistakes are data, not failures. When something goes wrong, when you make an error, when the result isn't what you hoped, your first instinct might be frustration, disappointment, a feeling that you've failed. But mistakes aren't failures. They're information. They're your brain's way of showing you, here's where we need to adjust. Here's what we haven't mastered yet. Here's the gap between where we are and where we want to be. Every mistake is a teacher. Every error is a signpost, pointing toward growth. When you can see mistakes this way, without judgment, without shame, they lose their power to discourage you. They become simply useful, valuable, welcome even, because mistakes show you exactly what to work on next. Now here's how to extract the most from those mistakes. Pausing to name errors improves correction. When something goes wrong, it's tempting to just move on quickly, to brush past it, to try again and hope it doesn't happen next time. But that rushing, that avoidance, that means you don't really process what happened. Instead, pause, stop for a moment, and name the error. What specifically went wrong? Was it timing? Was it technique? Was it attention? Get precise, get specific, put words to what happened. Because when you name something, you begin to understand it. And when you understand it, you can fix it. The pause is not wasted time. The pause is where learning crystallizes. Here's the question that accelerates improvement. Asking what to do differently accelerates learning. It's not enough to know what went wrong. You need to know what to do about it. After you've identified the mistake, after you've named the error, ask yourself, what will I do differently next time? Not, I'll try harder. That's vague. Not, I'll do better. That's not actionable. But I'll slow down on this part, or I'll focus on this specific element, or I'll adjust this one thing. Give yourself a concrete action, a clear adjustment. Then, the next attempt isn't just another try. It's a targeted correction. You're not hoping to improve. You're implementing a specific change, and that is how progress happens. One clear adjustment at a time. Now let's talk about removing the emotional weight from mistakes. Turning errors into games reduces fear. When mistakes feel serious, when they feel heavy, when they carry shame or judgment, you start to fear them. And fear makes you tentative, cautious, afraid to try. But when you can play with mistakes, when you can approach them with curiosity and lightness, when you can say, I wonder what happens if I try this, suddenly learning feels safe again, free again. Make a game of finding errors. Challenge yourself to make mistakes intentionally, just to see what happens. Keep score of how many different ways you can mess up. Laugh at the ridiculous ones. This playfulness, this lightness, it opens you up. It helps you explore without fear. And without fear, you learn so much faster. Here's how to confirm your growth. Retesting old weaknesses confirms mastery. It's satisfying to work on new things, to push into new territory. But don't forget to circle back. Return to what used to challenge you. Retest what used to be hard. Because when you can do easily what once felt impossible, that's when you truly feel your progress. That's when you see how far you've come. And that recognition, that evidence of growth, it fuels you. It reminds you that effort works, that practice pays off, that you are, indeed, becoming. Old weaknesses, overcome, are proof of your capability. Let's talk about developing deeper understanding now. Predicting outcomes sharpens intuition. Before you do something, before you try, pause and predict. What do you think will happen? What do you expect the result to be? Then, do it. And observe. Was your prediction right? Were you close? Were you completely wrong? Either way, you learn. You're training your brain to anticipate, to understand cause and effect, to build models of how things work. Prediction forces you to engage more deeply. You're not just passively experiencing, you're actively thinking, forming hypotheses, testing your understanding. And that active engagement, that's where intuition develops. Here's another way to strengthen your mental models. Guessing before checking strengthens mental models. When you encounter a question, when you need to recall something, when you're not sure of the answer, resist the urge to immediately look it up. Guess first. Make your brain work. Make it search. Make it produce its best answer. Even if you're uncertain, even if you think you might be wrong. Then, check. See if you were right. If you were, great. That retrieval just strengthened the memory. If you were wrong, even better. Now you're correcting a misconception. You're replacing faulty wiring with accurate information. And that correction, after a genuine attempt to remember, sticks much more firmly than if you just looked it up right away. The guess forces engagement. The checking provides correction. Together, they build understanding. Now here's how to develop a sense of quality. Studying exemplars clarifies quality. You can't hit a target you can't see. You can't create excellence if you don't know what excellence looks like. This is why it's so valuable. To study the best examples, the masterworks, the exemplars, not to copy them, not to feel intimidated, but to understand what makes them good, what qualities do they have, what details matter, what creates that sense of mastery. The more you study excellence, the more your standards rise, the more your eye develops, the more clearly you can see quality in others' work and in your own. And that discernment, that ability to recognize excellence, guides your improvement. Here's how to refine your judgment even further. Comparing good versus bad sharpens judgment. Don't just look at excellent examples. Look at poor ones too. Look at mediocre ones. And compare them. Ask yourself, what's different? Why does this one work while that one doesn't? What specific elements create quality or undermine it? This comparison, this side-by-side analysis, it trains your eye. It develops your taste. It helps you see not just what's good, but why it's good. And when you understand why, you can recreate those qualities in your own work. You can steer toward excellence because you know what excellence requires. Judgment isn't innate, it's developed through careful attention, through comparison, through study. And finally, here's how all these elements come together. Intuition grows through exposure and reflection. Intuition isn't magic. It isn't a mysterious gift that some people have and others don't. It's pattern recognition. It's accumulated experience. It's your brain, having seen something enough times, that it recognizes what works and what doesn't, often before your conscious mind catches up. But intuition requires two things. Exposure. You need to see many examples, make many attempts, gather lots of experience. And reflection. You need to process that experience, think about it, learn from it, extract the patterns. Exposure without reflection is just noise. Reflection without exposure is just theory. But together, they create intuition, that gut feeling, that sense of knowing, that ability to make good decisions without always knowing exactly why. Trust that your intuition is developing. Every mistake you study, every prediction you make, every comparison you draw, every moment of reflection, all of it is building this deep, quiet knowing. And as you rest now, as you sink into sleep, let these principles about mistakes and learning settle into your mind. You don't need to fear errors. You don't need to avoid them. They are your teachers, your guides, your partners in growth. Every mistake, understood, becomes wisdom. Every error, examined, becomes insight. Nothing is wasted. Everything serves your learning. So rest peacefully, knowing that even your imperfections are part of the path. Even your stumbles are steps forward. You are learning, always, from everything. And that learning is shaping you into exactly who you're meant to become. Everything is unfolding beautifully. Segment 7, Sustainable Learning, 12 to 15 minutes. Welcome back to this restful space. Let yourself become even more relaxed now. Your breathing slow and deep, your mind quiet and open. There's such peace in simply being here, listening, learning, drifting. Let's begin with something essential about protecting your love of learning. Stop before exhaustion to avoid burnout. There's a temptation, when you're making progress, when things are going well, to push and push until you have nothing left, to squeeze every drop from your energy, to practice until you're depleted. But exhaustion has a cost. When you push too far, learning stops feeling good. It starts feeling like punishment, like something to endure, and your brain begins to associate the activity with discomfort, with strain, with wanting it to be over. Better to stop while you still feel good, while you're still enjoying it, while there's still a little energy left. That way, when you return, you're eager, you're fresh, you remember it feeling pleasant, and that positive association keeps you coming back. Protect your enthusiasm. It's more valuable than any single session's progress. Here's how to prevent the downward spiral when things get difficult. Short reset rituals prevent frustration spirals. Sometimes things aren't going well. You're making mistakes, you're struggling, you can feel the frustration building, tension rising, your mood darkening. This is the moment for a reset. Not quitting, not giving up, just pausing, stepping back, taking 3 deep breaths, walking around the room, getting a glass of water, stretching, looking out the window for 30 seconds. These small rituals, they break the spiral. They give your nervous system a chance to settle. They create space between the frustration and your next attempt. And often, after that brief reset, you return with fresh eyes, calm energy. The problem that felt impossible suddenly becomes manageable again. Reset rituals are acts of self-compassion. They're ways of caring for yourself while still moving forward. Now here's how to maintain progress, even when you're not at your best. Light tasks on low-energy days maintain momentum. Not every day will be your peak performance day. Some days you're tired, distracted, just not feeling it. And that's okay. That's human. That's normal. But here's the thing. You can still do something small, something easy. Maybe you can't do the challenging work today, but you can review something you already know. You can do a simple warm-up. You can engage with the easiest aspect of your practice. It doesn't have to be impressive. It doesn't have to be progress. It just has to be contact, a gentle touch, a small connection. Because that maintains the thread. That keeps the relationship alive. That tells your brain, we're still doing this. Even on the hard days, we're still showing up. And sometimes, after you start with the easy thing, you find a little more energy than you thought. But even if you don't, you've still succeeded. You've still maintained momentum. Here's something to pay attention to. Learning speed varies by time of day. You have rhythms, natural cycles of energy and focus. Maybe you're sharpest in the morning. Maybe you come alive in the evening. Maybe midday is your best time. Pay attention to when you feel most alert, most capable, most focused, and if possible, schedule your most challenging learning for those peak times. Use your natural energy rather than fighting against it. And the times when you're lower energy, those are fine for review, for light practice, for consolidation. You don't have to force yourself to do difficult work when your brain isn't ready for it. Work with your rhythms. Honor them. Use them wisely. Let's talk about motivation now. Pair practice with small rewards. Your brain responds to pleasure, to positive reinforcement. When something feels good, you want to do it again. So why not create that association intentionally? After a practice session, have your favorite tea. Listen to a song you love. Spend 5 minutes doing something enjoyable. The reward doesn't have to be big. It just has to be pleasant, consistent, linked to the practice. Over time, your brain learns. Practice equals something good. Practice equals reward. And that association makes it easier to start, easier to show up. The practice itself becomes tinged with that anticipated pleasure. You're not bribing yourself, you're being strategic, you're working with how your brain actually functions. And speaking of rewards, here's one of the most powerful. Celebrate small wins. Don't wait until you've achieved the big goal. Don't postpone celebration until you've mastered everything. That might be months or years away, and you need encouragement now, today, this week. So celebrate the small victories. You practiced today? That's worth acknowledging. You tried something new? That deserves recognition. You showed up even though you didn't feel like it? That's genuinely admirable. Let yourself feel good about these small wins. Let them register. Let them count. Because they do count. They're the building blocks. They're what the big achievements are made of. And when you celebrate them, you fuel the journey. You remind yourself, I'm doing it. I'm making progress. I'm succeeding. Here's something for when motivation naturally fades. Accountability keeps consistency when motivation dips. Motivation is wonderful, but it's unreliable. It comes and goes like weather. Some days it's strong, some days it's nowhere to be found. But accountability, that's different. When someone else knows you're working on something, when you've committed to showing them your progress, when you've joined a group or found a partner, that external structure holds you. When your internal motivation wobbles. You don't do it because you feel like it. You do it because you said you would. Because someone's expecting you. Because you're part of something larger than just yourself. And accountability doesn't have to be heavy. It can be light. A friend you text, an online community, a simple check-in, just enough to keep you honest, to keep you moving. Here's a powerful psychological tool. Use streaks to reinforce identity. When you practice every day for a week, you're not just practicing, you're becoming someone who practices every day. When you maintain a streak for 30 days, you're building evidence of who you are. You're proving to yourself, I'm the kind of person who does this, who shows up, who keeps going. Streaks are visible proof of consistency, and that proof, it reinforces your identity. You're not trying to be disciplined anymore. You are disciplined. You're not attempting to be a learner. You are a learner. The streak is evidence. And that identity, once formed, is self-sustaining. You keep going, because that's who you are. Now here's your safety net for difficult days. Commit to tiny minimums on hard days. Some days, everything feels impossible. The thought of a full practice session is overwhelming. Your motivation is gone. Your energy is depleted. This is when you need a minimum, the smallest possible commitment. Maybe it's just 2 minutes. Maybe it's one single exercise. Maybe it's just sitting in your practice space. Whatever it is, make it so small that you can't say no, so easy, that even on your worst day, you can do it. And here's what happens. Often, once you start, even with the tiny minimum, you find you can do a bit more. Not always, but often enough. And even when you don't, you've still kept your streak. You've still shown up. You've still maintained momentum. The tiny minimum protects you from all or nothing thinking. It keeps you in the game, even when you can't play hard. And finally, here's the overarching principle that makes everything sustainable. Consistency beats intensity over time. You might think you need to practice for hours, need to push hard, need to make dramatic efforts, and sometimes short bursts of intensity are valuable. But over the long arc of learning, over months and years, consistency is what wins. Showing up regularly, doing something most days, maintaining the connection, that steady, patient, persistent effort accumulates into mastery. Think of it like compound interest. Small deposits, made regularly, grow into something substantial, but sporadic large deposits, with long gaps between, never build the same momentum. Be the person who shows up. Not perfectly, not intensely, just regularly, consistently, patiently. That's how you get there. That's how transformation happens. Not in dramatic leaps, but in quiet, steady steps, repeated over time. So as you rest now, let yourself appreciate the gentle path, the sustainable way. Learning doesn't have to be harsh. It doesn't have to be exhausting. It doesn't have to burn you out. It can be steady, manageable, even peaceful, a practice you can maintain for years, for a lifetime, because it nourishes you rather than depleting you. Rest in that possibility. Rest in that gentleness. Let yourself imagine a way of learning and growing that feels good, that supports you, that you can sustain, because that's the way that lasts. That's the way that truly transforms you. Everything is perfectly paced, perfectly timed, perfectly unfolding, and so we continue this gentle journey, deeper still into understanding. Your body is completely at rest now, your mind open and receptive, ready to absorb these deeper principles of learning. There's nowhere to rush to, nothing to grasp, just this quiet flow of knowledge, settling into you like rain into soil. Let's begin with a principle of balance, alternating new material and review balances depth and breadth. There's an art to pacing your learning. If you only ever practice what you already know, you stagnate, you stay in the comfortable zone, you stop growing. But if you only ever chase new material, never reviewing, never consolidating, nothing sticks. You're constantly skimming the surface. The answer is rhythm. New material, then review. Exploration, then consolidation. Breadth, then depth. Back and forth, like breathing in and breathing out. Each serves a purpose. Each balances the other. New material excites, review solidifies. Together, they create learning that's both expansive and durable. Here's how to make your skills more adaptable. Practice under varied conditions builds flexibility. When you always practice in the same place, at the same time, in the same circumstances, you're learning in a narrow context. And sometimes, when the context changes, your skill falters. But when you practice in different rooms, at different times of day, with different lighting, with various distractions, you're teaching your brain this skill works everywhere, not just in perfect conditions, not just when everything's ideal, but anywhere, anytime. Varied practice creates robust skills, skills that adapt, skills that transfer, skills you can rely on regardless of circumstance. Now let's talk about preparing for real challenges. Simulating pressure prepares real-world performance. In practice, in your comfortable space, with no stakes, no audience, no consequences, things feel one way. But in real situations, when it matters, when there's pressure, everything changes. Your heart races, your thoughts speed up, your body tenses. And if you've only ever practiced in calm conditions, that pressure overwhelms you. But if you practice under simulated pressure, if you create artificial stakes, artificial time limits, artificial observers, you train yourself to function under stress. You learn that you can perform even when uncomfortable, even when nervous, even when the pressure is on. The simulation doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to introduce that element of pressure. So your nervous system learns, I can handle this. I've been here before. Here's a practice method that strengthens memory. Random practice strengthens recall. When you practice things in the same order every time, your brain learns the sequence. It anticipates what's coming next. And that anticipation is a form of cueing. You're not truly recalling, you're just following the pattern. But when you randomize, when you shuffle the order, when you practice things in unpredictable sequences, your brain has to genuinely retrieve. It has to identify what's needed. It has to access the memory without context clues. That effort, that true retrieval from randomness, creates stronger, more independent memories. Memories you can access whenever you need them, not just when prompted by a familiar sequence. Now here's how to maintain engagement over time. Switching difficulty prevents burnout. If everything is always hard, always challenging, always at your limit. You exhaust yourself. The constant strain wears you down. But if everything is always easy, always comfortable, always within your mastery, you get bored. The solution is to vary difficulty. Some sessions, push yourself. Work at the edge. Challenge yourself significantly. Other sessions, work on easier material. Enjoy your competence. Let yourself feel capable. Hard, then easy. Challenge, then comfort. This oscillation, it keeps you engaged. It prevents the burnout of constant struggle and the boredom of constant ease. Your brain needs both, the growth of challenge and the restoration of ease. Here's a diagnostic tool for improvement. Constraints expose weaknesses. When you practice normally, with all your usual tools and techniques available, you might unconsciously compensate for weaknesses. You work around them, you avoid them. They stay hidden. But when you add a constraint, when you remove a tool or limit a technique or add a restriction, suddenly those weaknesses become visible. You can't hide anymore. You can't compensate. The weakness is exposed, and now you can address it. Maybe you practice without looking, or slower than comfortable, or with one hand, or without a particular tool. The specific constraint doesn't matter. What matters is it reveals what you've been avoiding, and what's revealed can be improved. Now here's how to eliminate persistent errors. Micro drills target recurring mistakes. Some mistakes keep appearing. You work on them, they seem to improve, then they come back. They're persistent, stubborn, recurring. These mistakes need focused attention, not casual practice, not hoping they'll go away, but deliberate, isolated, targeted work. Micro drills, where you extract just that one element, that one problematic moment, and practice it over and over in isolation until the correct pattern becomes automatic. Micro drills aren't exciting. They're repetitive, focused, sometimes tedious, but they're how you eliminate the persistent errors that keep holding you back. You isolate them, you drill them, you fix them. Here's how to ensure you're on the right path. Periodic reviews refine strategy. Learning is not a straight line. As you progress, you need to pause occasionally, step back, and assess. What's working? What isn't? Where are you improving? Where are you stuck? Is your approach still serving you? These periodic reviews, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, they're moments of strategic thinking. You're not just practicing, you're examining your practice, evaluating it, adjusting it. Because what worked at the beginning might not work now. What you needed as a beginner differs from what you need at intermediate level. Stay flexible. Stay observant. Keep refining your strategy as you grow. Now here's a principle of focus and depth. Pruning unimportant skills increases depth. You have limited time, limited energy, limited attention. If you try to learn everything, pursue every possible skill, you spread yourself so thin that nothing develops deeply. Sometimes, growth requires subtraction, letting go of things that don't serve your primary goals, eliminating the nice-to-haves, focusing your energy on what truly matters. It's not about being narrow, it's about being intentional, about choosing depth in what matters, over shallow engagement with everything. The skills you prune free up resources for the skills that deserve your full attention. And that focused attention, that concentrated energy, that's where mastery lives. And finally, here's the overarching wisdom of long-term learning. Learning adapts as goals evolve. You're not the same person you were when you started. Your interests shift, your priorities change, your understanding deepens, and as you change, your learning must change too. What excited you initially might not excite you now. What challenged you early might now be routine. Your goals naturally evolve, and that's good, that's healthy, that's growth. So let your practice evolve with you. Don't rigidly stick to old patterns just because that's how you started. Stay connected to what matters now. what you need now, where you're going now. Learning is alive. It breathes, it changes, it adapts, just like you. So as you rest now, as sleep draws nearer, let yourself appreciate the dynamic nature of learning. It's not a fixed system, it's not rigid rules, it's a living practice that grows with you, changes with you, serves you, wherever you are in your journey. Trust that you can adapt, trust that you can adjust, trust that your learning, like you, is always evolving, always becoming, always finding the way forward. Rest in that flexibility, rest in that wisdom. Let yourself drift, knowing that you have everything you need to continue growing, to keep learning, to keep becoming. Everything is flowing naturally, perfectly, exactly as it should. Welcome to this peaceful continuation, this gentle unfolding of understanding. Your body is deeply relaxed now, your breathing slow and effortless, your mind receptive and calm. Let these final insights about learning wash over you, like waves on a shore, each one carrying you closer to complete rest. Let's begin with the bridge between practice and reality. Apply learning immediately in real life. There's a gap, a significant gap, between practicing something in isolation and using it in the real world. You can drill a skill for hours, but until you actually use it, in a real situation, with real stakes, you don't truly know if you've learned it. So apply what you're learning. Don't wait until it's perfect. Don't wait until you feel completely ready. Use it. Try it. Test it in reality. That's where learning becomes real. That's where practice transforms into capability. The application doesn't have to be dramatic. Small uses count. Tiny applications matter. Each time you use your learning in real life, you're cementing it. You're making it yours. And here's what that real-world application reveals. Real-world use reveals gaps practice hides. In practice, you control everything: the conditions, the timing, the variables. But in real life, you don't control anything. Reality is messy, unpredictable, complex, and in that messiness, you discover what you actually know versus what you thought you knew. You find gaps, weaknesses, areas where your understanding isn't as solid as you believed. And that discovery, while sometimes humbling, is incredibly valuable. Because now you know. Now you have real feedback. Now you can return to practice with clarity about what actually needs work. This is why you must adjust drills based on real experience. Don't just practice blindly. Don't just follow a curriculum without thinking. Use your real-world experience to inform your practice. What problems did you encounter? What felt difficult? What didn't work the way you expected? Take those insights back to your practice. Create drills that address those specific challenges. Practice the things that reality showed you actually matter. This creates a feedback loop. Practice, then apply, then adjust practice, then apply again. Each cycle makes your learning more relevant, more practical, more useful. Here's how to accelerate your progress. Combine skills to reinforce each other. Skills don't exist in isolation. They interact, they support each other, they build on each other. When you're learning multiple things, look for the connections. Look for how one skill enhances another, how practicing this also improves that. Maybe writing strengthens your thinking, which improves your speaking. Maybe physical coordination in one area transfers to coordination in another. Maybe the discipline you build in one practice flows into other areas of your life. These synergies multiply your growth. You're not just learning separate skills, you're building an interconnected system where everything supports everything else. Now let's talk about social elements of learning. Share progress publicly for light pressure. There's something powerful about making your learning visible. When you share what you're working on, when you post your progress, when you let others see your journey, it creates gentle accountability. You're more likely to follow through, more likely to keep going, because others are watching, not judging, just witnessing, and that witness, that light social pressure, it helps you stay consistent. You don't have to share everything. You don't have to expose your struggles, just small updates, small milestones, small evidence that you're still going. That simple visibility keeps you honest. And here's another benefit of learning with others. Social learning accelerates growth. When you learn alongside others, you see different approaches, different perspectives, different solutions. You're exposed to ideas you wouldn't have thought of alone. Someone explains something in a way that suddenly makes sense. Someone makes a mistake you can learn from. Someone achieves something that shows you it's possible. You can do it too. Learning in community is faster than learning alone, not because others do the work for you, but because they expand your vision. They show you possibilities. They normalize the struggle. They celebrate the wins. You're not isolated. You're part of something larger. And that makes everything easier. This is why communities provide models and feedback. In a good learning community, you find people ahead of you who show you what's possible, what the next level looks like, where you're heading. They're living proof that you can get there. And you find people alongside you who understand your struggles, who offer encouragement, who share the journey. And you find people behind you who remind you how far you've come, who benefit from your experience, who look to you as you look to others. The community becomes a living ecosystem of learning, everyone teaching, everyone learning, everyone growing together. And within that community, here's one of the most powerful things you can do. Teaching others clarifies thinking. When you help someone else understand, when you explain what you know, when you guide someone through what confused you once, you deepen your own understanding dramatically. Teaching forces you to organize your knowledge, to find clear ways to express it, to anticipate confusion, to answer questions you hadn't considered. And through that process, your own grasp becomes clearer, stronger, more complete. You think you're helping them, but really, you're helping yourself too. Teaching is learning. Explaining is understanding. Giving is receiving. Now we arrive at something profound. Learning becomes part of who you are. At first, learning feels like something you do, an activity, a task, something separate from yourself. But over time, with consistency, with commitment, something shifts. Learning stops being something you do and becomes part of who you are. You're not trying to be a learner anymore. You are a learner. It's not a role you play. It's your identity. And when learning becomes identity, everything changes. You don't need motivation. You don't need to force yourself. You just learn, because that's who you are. That's what you do. As naturally as breathing. That's the ultimate transformation, from skill to identity, from doing to being. And finally, here's the gentle truth that should comfort you as you drift towards sleep. Growth compounds quietly. You won't see the change day to day. Each practice session feels small. Each bit of progress feels incremental. Sometimes, it feels like nothing is happening at all. But growth is occurring beneath the surface, in ways you can't see, like roots spreading underground, like cells dividing, like the slow turn of seasons. And one day, you'll look back and be startled by how far you've come, how much you've changed, how different you are from when you started. Not because of one dramatic moment, but because of all those quiet days, all those small sessions, all those tiny steps that accumulated, compounded, transformed you. Trust the quiet growth. Trust the invisible process. Trust that every effort, every moment of practice, every small application is building something, creating something, transforming you into who you're becoming. And as you rest now, as sleep finally claims you, let yourself feel the weight of all you've learned. Not just tonight, but through your whole life. All the skills you've developed, all the knowledge you've gathered, all the growth you've experienced. You are capable of remarkable learning. You have proven it again and again, and you will continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to evolve for as long as you choose. Rest now in that confidence. Rest in that capability. Rest in the beautiful truth that you are always becoming, always learning, always growing. The journey continues, the path unfolds, and you are perfectly equipped for everything ahead. Sleep now, peaceful learner. Sleep and let the growth continue. Quietly, beautifully, perfectly. Everything is complete. Everything is exactly as it should be.